Good. Well, my name's Deanne. Tom went over my work a little bit, and so I won't bore you with that. Every time I come to one of these, I realize that there's so much stuff I don't know. And it's so wonderful to come to these and learn all the things that you don't know and then be scared about all the work that you do because you're like, well, geez, I didn't know that. That's not very good. So I'm always thrilled, and hopefully there's something here that you learn too. Tom mentioned that I have twin girls. They're 3 months old, and so if you're like, God, she don't look so good, it's because that's the way I feel right now. But we're surviving, and so I'm not taking any hard questions this morning, so you can just save those. I'm going to talk about construction lien law. And let me give you a little bit of background. When I realized that I was having twin girls, my husband and I decided we were going to put an addition on our house. And when I started doing that, I realized working with a contractor and subcontractors, one, they don't care anything about time. But the important part that I learned was they didn't know anything about construction law, lien law. Nobody gave me any notices. Nobody sent me anything. I thought, I'm going to pay you, but not everybody that you work for in the future is going to pay you. And so it was clear to me that, these two-man shops, they didn't know how to protect themselves. And so I started thinking, man, I should really put together a presentation, which I have tried to pitch to the St. Croix Valley Home Builders Association, because I said, I'll put this together. You guys need to learn this. Your members need to learn this to help. I called whoever the woman is there, but I haven't heard back yet. But anyway, that's kind of the background where I thought, geez, I run into this enough. We should talk about this stuff. So why do I care about construction lien law? Oh, let me back up. There's written materials in there which has all this information in full sentences. So don't feel like you have to write it all down. And then I just did a PowerPoint separately so you don't have to be scrambling. Why do you care about construction lien? Money. That's why you care, because you want to get paid, because contractors want to get paid. And so the ability to lien a property gives a contractor significantly more power in getting paid. The little hands with the house in it, it gives you the ability to encumber the real estate. When an owner all of a sudden finds out that they have a lien on their property, the owner is going to do the work for you, the contractor, usually against if you're the sub or whatever, against the contractor, so that you will get paid eventually. And so the ability to lien real estate is a huge part of construction liens and why you should care about them. And that you don't really need permission. You don't have to go to court to get it. If you follow the statutory steps, you can just file the lien against the property. And so that's a huge advantage, because you don't have to spend 3 years in litigation in order to get the lien, so long as you've done the things. My friendly little dog over there means you should care, because it gives the contractor some teeth. It's not just, hey, I'm going to get a paper judgment against you that you're never going to pay me. It's, hey, I have a lien against your property, and now you're in big trouble if you ever want to do anything with that property. And the last little slide is for lenders. You care about this because of priority issues. Jim talked about it a little bit. Wisconsin is unique in the statute that he rattled off the top of his head that gives lenders priority regardless of the relation back that construction liens have. And so I was telling Jim, I went to law school in Minnesota and took a fair amount of real estate law classes, didn't really pay attention in many of them, and I thought I remembered that there was an issue with relation back. And then when I came to Wisconsin, I thought, I must have made that up, because that's not an issue here. And he tells me, well, that Wisconsin's unique in having that statute that protects lenders so long as you're properly recorded. And so I won't talk a lot about that. But as far as lenders are concerned, I think you are interested in whether your borrower eventually has construction liens or not, because that affects your borrower's stability. And certainly you want your borrower to be able to make their payments. And so you are concerned kind of tangentially in that way. So now I told you why you care. Wow. How do I do this? And so I'm going to talk about kind of the ways, the things that you need to do in order to properly protect your construction lien rights. The first thing you have to do is you have to determine your status, and then you have to send the appropriate notices, and there's really specific rules about that. And then you have to properly serve those notices, and then you have to foreclose. And so that's what I'm going to kind of go through each one of those steps today. So the first thing we talked about is you have to determine your status. If you're the contractor or the subcontractor, you have to decide who you are in the deal. And then the guy reading the paper, that's the prime contractor. So you're either a prime or you're a subcontractor, supplier, or service provider. I'm just going to call those subs. I'm just going to group them together as a subcontractor. But you have to determine which one of those you are in order to determine which notices you have to send. And then you have to determine which type of project you have. You either have a private project or you have a public project. Because I don't have 6 hours, I'm not going to talk about public projects. I'm only going to talk about private projects. And so first, your lien, what type of lien claimant are you? Are you the prime contractor or are you the subcontractor? And first, let's talk about my plumber here, okay? That's a good-looking plumber. I'm pretty sure I've never hired a plumber who looked that nice. And then I was thinking, when I was putting this picture up, I thought, he's holding a plunger. If all I needed the plumber for was a plunger, would I really be hiring the plumber? I mean, I just thought that was really a strange picture. But anyway, so you have to classify yourself. You're either the prime contractor or you're the sub. Prime contractor, pretty easy. You're the guy who's hiring the subs. You're working directly with the owner. The only part where that kind of gets sticky is if the prime contractor is the owner. Okay, so the owner might be working with all the subs, in which case then the prime contractor could be the owner himself or herself. So that's kind of the only issue with that. And then the subcontractor, you kind of know if you're the subcontractor. You're not dealing with the owner. You're dealing directly with the prime contractor unless the owner is acting as the prime contractor. But again, I know this is kind of getting confusing. You have to determine that first. You have to say, okay, I have to figure out whether I'm the prime contractor or the subcontractor. And then once I've figured that out, I need to determine whether I'm a private project or a public project. And again, I'm not going to talk about public projects, but those are projects that are funded by public means. Once I've determined that I'm the prime contractor, then I'm like, okay, is it private or public? That's pretty easy. Let's just for focus today, I'm the private. Then I have to determine, okay, is it private small or large? Okay, no, these are all these categories you have to follow, okay? So we figured out I'm the prime contractor, it's private, and now is it small, large, or bonded? And again, I'm not going to talk about bonded, I'll just talk about small or large. So before I know what notices I need to send, I figured out what I am, and then for large and small, essentially it's residential or commercial, except for if it's residential, that's more than 4 units. Housing units, then it's large. That makes sense. So once you've determined those things, then you can figure out what notices to send. So we've already determined our status, and then but we have to figure out now, once we know our status, then that's going to tell us which notices have to be sent. So under this circumstance, you're the prime contractor and it's a small project. So I'm the contractor. I deal with Tom. He wants to rebuild his cabin. I'm the prime contractor. It's a small project because it's wholly residential and it's not more than 4 units. So I fall into this category. And then these are the notices that I have to send. And so the first thing is the 10-day notice, the 30-day notice. Well, let's start. I'll talk about these individually. But the 10-day notice is the notice that you have to give on small projects because it goes to the sophistication of the owner. It's not required on a large project because the owner should be more sophisticated because it's a commercial deal. The 10-day notice just gives them notice that they have these lien rights. If your contract is written, it has to be in the original contract. If your contract is oral, then you have to just send this notice in order to retain your lien rights. And again, the only reason you care about these is because if you don't have them, you don't have a lien. And to go back to the beginning, we care about having liens because it gives us teeth. It gives us priority, it gives us the ability to collect, and it gives us our money. So these notices need to be sent in order to preserve those rights. Again, in the written notices, or in the written materials, it goes through these individually. But so prime contractor plus a small projects, these are the notices that have to be sent. The 10-day notice, the 30-day notice, then you actually have to file the claim. You have to serve the claim on the owner so that they know, and then you have to file the summons complaint if you want to foreclose it. So here's the prime contractor with a large project. So again, if you look at it, they're exactly the same except for the 10-day notice. And so you still have to give them the warning, file the lien, serve the lien, and then file the summons and complaint. But it doesn't require the 10-day notice, because if it's a large project, the statutes assume that that owner is more sophisticated and knows that there's these lien rights out. If it's just, some guy who wants a deck put on his property, he may not know that there's these construction lien rights. And so in that case, you need to send the 10-day notice. Subs, our sexy plumber. They have essentially the same, the 30-day, the lien, the notice, but they have to send this 60-day notice. And that, I think, with my experience in my renovation or addition, I didn't get one of these from any of the subs that worked on our property. And that I was just shocked because I thought, you guys are getting nothing. And I mean, and the plumber bill ain't cheap. And so I just thought, geez, they could really lose out. And who are they going to get their money from? Well, probably me, because they're assuming. But I noticed that none of the subs followed any of the rules, and so they had zero lien rights against me as the owner. But that 60-day notice, again, on a small project, because the statutes assume it's just a homeowner, it's residential, they don't know that there might be lien rights. That 60-day notice has to be sent in order for them to preserve that right. And then if you go to the subcontractor large project, same thing, no 60-day notice, but essentially the same. And again, goes to the sophistication of the owner, as far as you don't have to warn them that you might have these rights. Okay, so 10-day notice. That's the notice that either has to be in your contract in a private, small, or you have to serve it if it's an oral contract. There's rules for these, and it's important that you have to follow all those rules. Like there's rules in the statute about the font size. If it's in your contract, it has to be at least 8-point font. If it's on a computer, it has to be bolded. If it's typewritten, it has to be in all caps. There's all these specific rules that, again, if you don't follow them, you run the risk that you won't have a successful lien, even if you follow everything else. And right in the statute, it gives you the language that it has to say. Or it gives you suggested language. Well, why wouldn't you use the suggested language? So the statute tells you, if you read it, it tells you what exactly that notice should say. And so you could just type it right out and put it right in there, make sure that you've preserved that right. The 30-day notice, if we go back, that's in all of them, which is essentially your warning notice, which is, hey, you haven't paid me, or the contractor hasn't paid me. I'm going to file a lien against your property within 30 days, because you can't file the lien unless you have given them the 30-day notice. And so that's the warning notice the prime contractor or the subcontractor gives regardless. That's in all categories. You have to send that, which essentially is you're saying, owner, you're in trouble here if I don't get paid within 30 days. And you have to send that, again, 30 days before you file your actual lien, but also within 5 months of the last labor or services you provided to the property. So there are time limits on there, but that's essentially the warning to the owner. The 60-day notice is for the subcontractors, again, that they need to send the owner in a private small deal. And I put the teacher up there because that really is, it's a document that's sent to the owner to kind of teach them that, hey, I'm a sub and I might have lien rights, and so you should know about this. And there's also rules about that, that if I'm the owner and I receive that, I have to provide it to my lender within 10 days of receiving it. And so, again, and that's actually in the notice. The language for that, also in the statute. So you just read the statute. It tells you exactly what your 60-day notice should look like. The actual claim for lien. This is the document that makes the encumbrance on the real estate. So you sent your 10-day or 60-day if you needed to. If it was a large project, you X'd those out. Then you sent your warning saying, hey, owner, I haven't gotten paid, and so I'm going to file a lien within 30 days. You still don't get paid. Then you file the claim for lien. And this is the document that actually goes in the register, or gets recorded and filed in the county where the property sits. And so this is kind of the big ticket document. And so this is the document that prevents the sale of the property or the transfer or the sale of the property without you getting paid. Unless the person takes it subject to. But this also has specific language in the statute that has to be included in order for it to be a legitimate claim that's filed. So again, the statute outlines all of the things that you need to have in it. Like you have to have the owner's name, you have to have a description of the property, you have to have the type of work that was done, you have to identify the amount, things like that. And so you just want to make sure that that also is correctly, that you've included all the information that you have, because this is what will get you paid, because this is what then got recorded. And again, you can't file this unless you sent all those notices correctly. That's the important part. You can't just say, oh, I didn't get paid, I'm filing a lien against your property. You can only do that if you sent the 10 or 60 day notice if it was small, plus your warning letter, and then you can file this. So that's important, that you can't just file this. More rules. You have to serve the documents appropriately. And so, like I said, on the 10-day notice on a private small project, if you're the prime, if you didn't put that in your contract, or if it was oral, you didn't send it within the 10 days, you don't have the legitimate claim, the lien claim. And so you want to make sure that those are appropriately done, except for that 10-day notice that has to be in the contract. I would say the majority of these are served by certified or registered mail, because then you have the receipt, and that's allowed under the statute. You can also have them personally served, which, with money-wise, that's not usually what a contractor wants to do. You can also have them, sign for it. I think the statute says something like anything that has written approval of receipt. If you're going to file a lien, I think it's going to be pretty hard that you're going to get the owner to sign the document saying that they've received it. So most of the time what I see is it's done by certified or registered mail. Then you've got that receipt if there's ever an issue, and so you can just attach that to your summons and complaint when you foreclose your lien. And so you just want to make sure that you serve those appropriately. So let's go back up. We figured out which category we went into. We sent all the notices, the appropriate notices, and we sent them the way that we needed to, meaning that we sent them by registered or certified mail. I got one subcontractor on my property that emailed me his 60-day lien notice. I'm like, well, he clearly doesn't know that that's not legitimate, but at least he tried. But it just, you have to make sure that you follow all those steps. And so if you've done all that and you still haven't received payment, then you foreclose the lien. It has to be done within 2 years of when the lien was filed. So that's your time limit, where you can wait around and try to get paid for 2 years. But before 2 years, you have to file your summons and complaint to foreclose your lien. And so that's the magic number. I put the bank up there because it doesn't happen a lot that as a construction lien holder that you end up foreclosing your lien, because there is usually a lender that has priority over you. So, RCU has the first mortgage, and you've got the construction lien, and RCU's mortgage is for $350,000, and your construction lien is $2,500. Well, if you foreclose your lien, you're going to take the property back subject to RCU's mortgage, and so you'd have to pay them off in order to get the property back. And so it just logistically, and in the real world, it just doesn't happen a lot that you end up foreclosing the lien, because you don't want the property subject to a $350,000 mortgage. You just want your $2,500. That being said, if an owner then receives a foreclosure summons and complaint, it will sometimes prompt payment, because they don't want to be part of foreclosure. And if you name the lender in it, because they are a priority lien holder, the lender may, go knocking on the owner's door saying, what's going on here and why haven't you paid this? Certainly under the standard mortgages, that'd probably be a default under the mortgage, because there'd be a foreclosure action against, with the construction lien. So it may spur payment, but I would say that you usually don't end up at a sheriff's sale, because there is a priority lien holder that you just don't have any interest in taking out in the deal. The last thing is, you can convert, when you foreclose you have the 2 years to foreclose your construction lien. Once you foreclose your construction lien, you've turned it into a judgment. And so then that judgment would remain a lien against the property for 10 years. So you've kind of extended the time period in which the amount that you are owed is liened against the property. So that would be a reason why you would want to turn it into a judgment. Some miscellaneous matters. Once you have your construction lien filed, it just doesn't happen that you just magically get paid. The owner usually brings up a whole bunch of defenses when you try to foreclose the property. The first one is the timeliness of your notices. It certainly is easy to screw these up when there's a 10-day notice and a 30-day notice and a 60-day notice, and it has to be, you have to serve that within 30 days of you filing your lien, but within 5 months of the last time you provided materials to the property. And so things get screwed up on that. And so a lot of times that's in litigation where things go wrong, is that you haven't served it in a timely manner. And if I'm the owner, then I say, you didn't serve it in a timely manner, you no longer have, this isn't a legitimate lien against my property. The second one is, did you put the right stuff in your notices? Did it have the correct language? There are some savings clauses in the statute that say, as long as you've substantially complied with the language, it's enough. And if you didn't, then it's the duties on the owner to say that, to prove that they were somehow misled or confused by the language. But why get into that battle? Just put the right stuff in there, to use Jim's term, the stuff. Make sure you have the right language in the notices, because that's a defense that we see. The last thing is that owners will bring up is, you liened more than you could. You can only lien for work and materials. You can't lien for prejudgment interest. You can't lien, even if I'm the subcontractor and I have a contract with the prime contractor that says if you don't pay me, it's 18% interest. That interest is collectible by me, the sub, against the prime, but is not collectible by me, the sub, against the owner. Okay, it's only the materials. And so those are issues that come up that say, once there's been a lien is, well, I need you to outline what that is, because I want to make sure that everything that you've liened is a lienable item. So that's something that can come up in these cases. The last thing is, if you do these things wrong, you may end up with a slander of title issue, which is just a really mean phrase for that you recorded something improperly against my property. And so now I have an action against you because you've improperly clouded my title. And so you want to make sure that you do this. Usually you get some nasty letter from a lawyer saying, you've improperly liened this property, and if you don't remove that lien within 30 days, we're going to sue you for slander of title. And so then you go, oh geez, did I serve it properly? Do I have all the notices? And do I have all the certified mail receipts, all that stuff? And so you just want to make sure that you have kept all that, so that when some mean lawyer tries to tell you you don't have a lien and he's going to sue you for slander of title, you have that. And again, there is another savings clause in the statute that says, as long as you had a reasonable belief that whatever you liened was appropriate, you're okay. Just, don't be the shyster that you purposely threw in $100,000 as a lien, even though you only had $20,000 worth of work. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not taking any hard questions, so go ahead as long as it's easy. Well, it would be the damages that you incur. So, if you couldn't sell your house, or you had to pay 6 more months of mortgage payments before you were able to sell your house as a result of trying to clear this up. And then I'd have to look, but I think there is some statutory damages of like $1,000. I think it's punitive damages of $1,000 plus actual damages, whatever the owner issues were as a result of that. So now you're thoroughly confused. Does anyone have any other questions?